there is not a situation we can control directly. If we have the idea that it would be good to have ANP engage with the fragile one more, some may think of it in terms of exposure. ANP must be exposed to the fragile one, because without that exposure, the traumatic memories will never become resolved. Then it's different from treating, say, agoraphobia, where we can sort of take the patient by the hand and lead her into the feared situation. Here, streets, shops, marketplaces. We do not have a direct control over what it is that ANP is doing. Thus, that we struggle is sort of very understandable. Let's go to the next question, where there are some more options given regarding our affective responses. Some may, in this situation, start to avoid addressing ANP's phobia and try to work with ANP, let's say, more on daily life issues. Sometimes we may fool ourselves a little bit and think, okay, that's also an important thing to do. We focus on daily life issues. But if we are completely honest, there is or can be an element of avoidance on our behalf. We may, in part, perhaps, avoid addressing the phobia, because when we start to address it, that may lead to more reactive inactivations in the fragile one. And we may be also, like ANP, somewhat scared of the fragile one. Also, in that sense, we might sort of sympathize with the ANP, share her phobic reactions. Quite a few present here feel rather insecure and do not necessarily know what to do. But it's also nice to see that there are among us colleagues who, despite the strong phobia, feel affectively quite at ease and find ways to be creative. And sure, I would say we need to be creative. We may indeed have ideas how we can bring ANP in touch with the fragile one. But it's kind of hard to say in advance what the best method would be. It is good to be creative, and together with ANP, long and strive to find ways to get the work done. Good. A general thing, I repeat myself, is that we keep focusing on in therapy, is to reduce the load for ANP in meeting the fragile one. It should not be an all or nothing thing. Generally, when the fragile one becomes activated, they come full force. They are sort of guided by all or nothing reactions. Either I'm activated or I'm not. When EPF is fully activated and intrudes on the apparently normal one, then that one, the apparently normal one, may feel flooded by the intensity of the reenactments that the fragile one presents, the demands that she's making, the claims, the pressure that she is exerting. If we can help ANP to find ways to reduce that load by using her capacity to disassociate, you may be on a good track. ANP may start to feel that there's something she can do. I can enter contact with the fragile one in a more limited way. That's generally what I would recommend what we do. And in that frame, we can seek cooperation with the apparently normal one and ask her, how could you imagine to reduce the degree of contact between you and the fragile one? At the same time, we can also engage in some kind of relationship as therapists with the fragile one, speak to her and invite her to come forward, but in more limited ways, so that we get a cooperation from three sides: ANP, fragile, EP, and therapist, co-enacting a somewhat more manageable situation together. Let's go to the next mentee question. Girand, if you can bring it up. Here we turn the thing around. Now we focus on fragile EP's reactions regarding the ANP. Do you encounter such phobic reactions in your practices? From what I see so far, it is not a rare situation. It seems to be rather common. I grant you a little bit more time. It may be a little less common in the fragile one as compared to the apparently normal one, but it still seems to be there. Let's continue and ask the next mentee question that addresses the form that the phobia that guides the fragile one regarding the ANP may take. I've again mentioned several options. ANP may invite the fragile one to have a talk together, but the fragile one is too scared and does not respond. The fragile one may also panic when she notices ANP. But what is another option is that the fragile one is scared because she believes that no matter what she does, the apparently normal one will reject her, more or less forcefully. In that frame, the fragile one may start to cling to the therapist as an escape route, as an alternative. What seems so far to be very common in your practices is that the apparently normal one believes that there will be rejection. All the more important to us that we as therapists make sure that whenever there is a contact between the fragile one and the ANP in our sessions, at least there, that contact shall be adequate, that it shall be a success. Rather go for a little contact, I would suggest, and make sure that it works, rather than go for too much contact and have experiences of failure. The fragile one
Ellert,
also,
may I ask you
yes,
may I ask you a question? How to distinguish whether the EPF doesn't want to talk to the ANP or the ANP? I'm sorry, it's too early in the morning to speak English.
Auf Deutsch, we can translate.
This is even okay. Oder der ANP vermeidet EPF.
Yes, it is not always easy to know straight away who is doing what. As I said before, generally it's good to check with the various agents what it is that they are doing. When we are in situations such and so, what do you find yourself doing? Miranda, my mentee has disappeared, but it may be returning.
No, I do that on purpose because otherwise people don't see you and just the mentee. So for the personalized experience, I'm doing that.
Never mind. Thus, I would suggest, generally speaking, Petra, to check with the various agents and ask them how they feel about it, how they feel themselves responding, what they would like, what they would like more, what they would like less, what it is that they are feeling able to do. What can you do? What do you want to do? What do you do now? And to check that in as much as they are fully activated, not just at a level of what it is that they are saying, but also at a level of what they are showing in their embodied ways. Where do the eyes go? Do they seem to listen, or do they shut their ears? Do they have an open body posture, or do they become more enclosed? Do you feel that you're in touch with them, or are they present but at the same time more or less depersonalized, numbed? Thus we have not only to attend to their spoken words, but also to their whole presentation. Good. You can also track what happens when, say, the fragile one is present and ANP is present as well. And then you can check what happens when you invite ANP to step back a little bit. Do you then notice that the fragile one starts to relax a little bit or not? That you can sort of suggest modifications in the degree of contact between the different agents and see what is happening. And then invite them to track for themselves how they feel when, let's say, ANP withdraws a bit. What's better, what's worse? Such variations can be more or less revealing. Good. I continue with the next question, which is the same question as we had for ANP's phobia. Now, the question is, to what extent you feel affectively capable of handling fragile EP's intense fear and avoidance, in as much as that phobia is present as the therapist. How do you feel about that? And we see here that indeed some of you tend to feel insecure up to a point, struggle, get stuck. And I can honestly tell you, I know those reactions too well from my own experiences. I struggle more than once. Sometimes I noticed that actually I, as the therapist, was trying harder to get some kind of contact between the fragile one and the ANP, as that the parts, the dissociative agents, did that by themselves. Sometimes I detected sooner or later that I was trying too hard and they were trying perhaps too little. And in such situations, indeed, we may get stuck. We work hard, but the dissociative agents, guided by their phobic tendencies, may not necessarily join you in that game. You may long for more than the dissociative agents long for. Let's go to the next question.
Oh, sorry, you hurt my bleed.
More options. The ones that you already know. Is it perhaps so that, given by the difficulty of the situation, that you find yourself avoiding the phobia more than actually would be fitting? Some say, oh, I'm pretty much at ease and I find myself being creative. Others less so. It's nice to see that creativity can be upheld in many of you. Showing high degree of engagement, trying to find ways together. Do you have questions that we could try to address together and see how we can deal with situations that we find difficult?
I had a question regarding Mark's question. How can you tell for sure that it is the reaction of the ANP falling asleep? Could it not also be an intrusion from the EP, the drowsiness and the falling asleep part, maybe some part of the reenactment?
Yes, as always, it's not always instantly clear who is doing what.
Yeah.
Because a general guideline in an active trauma therapy is to check who is doing what and why. That's a sort of basic rule. Because if there is something that you might label as a symptom, a symptom is an action or a passion. Somebody is doing something for a reason. And it's always good to explore who is doing what. Thus here we could ask the ANP, do you want to go to sleep? Or is this a sort of automatic reaction when you hear the little one that you feel yourself becoming sleepy? Or is it perhaps the case that when the little one is there, that she has an influence on you so that you become sleepy, although you do not want to be sleepy? To complicate matters, it could also be that there is a controlling one who makes sure that ANP falls asleep whenever the little one pops up. There could be a third agent involved.
Yeah.
And not seldom a thing like that is the case. But in any case, it's always good to know who is doing what and why. And if you don't do that, be aware. If you don't know who is doing what and why, know that for yourself as a therapist and say, well, that's an issue. Rather than to be just creative and find ways left or right, up or down, but go for exploration. Sometimes in exploring the issue, it can help to slow time down. Sometimes things go quickly, and I said, let's do it again, but now we slow down time. Actually, that's a hypnotic suggestion, but not seldom dissociative patients are able to do that. We take it very, very slow, because with every little thing that's happening, we pause. Now is such and so happening. And you can track that when you make variations. a little one, come up a little stronger, step back a little bit, and then track the shifts in ANP. If she is starting to wear a sort of, the voice is so loud, okay, you dampen in one way or another the sound level. Does she start to relax more, become less sleepy, or doesn't it make any difference? Just by changing the situation a little bit, we can see if that has some sort of consequence, some sort of effect. And that may also help to find out what's actually happening. Would that be sufficient for now, Martje?
Yes, great, thank you.
Another intervention that sometimes may be helpful if actually the patient is sort of falling asleep or even losing consciousness, let's say as the ANP, then I found that sometimes it helps to say, okay, take a little sleep, speed time up, and go towards the end of your little nap. Sometimes it's better to allow a patient a certain reaction or action, complete the action, and continue from there, rather than to say, don't do it. Generally, that's not very helpful. If you must do it, if you must sleep, okay, do it well, do it intensely, sleep for 30 seconds. I will be counting. And then you return. In the meantime, you as the therapist could address the little one. You will have noticed that the adult one is falling asleep. You will probably know that she does that. You will also know that sooner or later she wakes up again. And you, little one, may sort of guess what you could do to make sure that she stays awake when you're present. Perhaps you come up with some ideas what you could do. Do you come up full force when you show yourself, fragile one? Perhaps it would be an idea that you show up, but actually be a bit like a ghost. You don't show your features so well. We could make a little, engage in a little sort of masking. Okay, perhaps that's an idea. A mind that the word mask may trigger something, as you will have to look for words that are fitting, but get them engaged. Let's see it as a challenge together. A little bit less as a problem, of course, it's also very hard, but it's also a challenge. Let's be creative together. What can you do, you clever little one, so that she doesn't fall asleep? It may also sometimes help in a DID case that the ANP falls asleep, leaves, the little one becomes activated, is up front, and that the little one then does something, leaves a trace of her presence. She could make a little drawing. She could, and we should not make fun of them, but she could ask with a little humor, hey, adult one, did you have a nice little nap? I was present here, and I say, hi, you older one. You fell asleep, but you will awake again, and then I will still be there. Perhaps with a particular patient, that little degree of playfulness. Some have a good sense of humor, and that could be used so that the seriousness of the situation becomes a little lighter. Others don't have a good sense of humor, and then you would better not do it. In any case, don't use it in a sadistic way. It must really be a little bit funny. It depends on the quality in the dissociative agents that you're dealing with, if you can do that or not. But in any case, change the situation a little bit and see what effect that may have. Good. Anything else? Any other sort of question you have regarding these phobias in ANP and fragile EP regarding each other? And as much as you are struggling yourself, don't tell yourself that you're a lousy therapist, that you do not know the solution. These phobias, as I said, they can be intense and they are not easily resolved. Because when it happens, just tell yourself, well, this is something to expect. This is common. This is what other clinicians are also working with, sometimes struggling with. It's not always instantly clear what to do. And Dominic, I know that you certainly know these situations very, very well. And you raised your hand, Dominic. So please feel invited to speak.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. There is an echo, but I can.
I'm wondering if it's my phobia or is it okay? Because sometimes I would like to support ANP to have contact with EPF more to experience the presence and not always to reenact in memories of the past. And because as we did this for a certain time, the stability in the present life went down a lot. And so we both tended to avoid a bit doing phase 2 trauma work. But I would like to have the ANPs engaged with the EPs, but a little bit more in the presence than in the past. So how can I differentiate if it's my and her phobia to avoid this, or can this be a balance where I lead not to engage so much in the past memories, but to engage more in the present moment of today's constructed reality?
Okay. Did you ask the fragile EP to put her horrible memories aside? So that she's there, but without reenacting her horrible experiences.
I'm not sure if I understood the word resigned, or if I understood if I
Aside.
Aside. That is, could
yes,
she,
yes,
for example,
I got it.
Put the whole thing in a box and close the box, lock the box, but have the key, put on the box a label, we will attend to this, but not straight away, something of that nature.
Well, we did that, but not lately. So I could put up that again to do this. Yes, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yes. You could add, ask ANP to write a little thing or make a little drawing showing that she will attend to the traumatic memories in due course, not straight away. Put it on paper, and then that paper, the little one, if I can address her like that, the fragile one, puts it in the box together with the horrible stuff. So she adds something, creates a new context to the horrible stuff. ANP promises to attend to it. And in order to be able to do that better, she first needs to learn to swim. Before she dives in deep water, she first needs to learn to swim. Thus now I come up with the idea, okay, ANP and EPF learn swimming together in shallow water. Okay, what would that be like? What form could that take? How can you swim together in shallow water? How can you present a drop back and forth? What would that drop be? Say hi. Okay, saying hi is a drop. 2 drops is to say hi, little one. Actually, that's our 3 drops. And then from there, we can add more drops of water. If that would be appealing to them, or use a different metaphor showing little steps, but a step nonetheless.
Good, thank you.
Okay. With a patient, I created a metaphor. She wanted to see the light. The light was the resolution of her problems. Okay, then I said, well, Paris is known as the city of light. And we are on a journey. And we are at a far distance from Paris still. And the road to Paris may not be easy. But what we can do together is to take a first step. What could our first step be? Maybe we even never reach Paris in full. But there are some lights in Brussels also. Okay, thus perhaps we could go in a certain direction and then sort of invent together the steps. Good. And sometimes when you've walked a bit too much, you may have blisters and you need to pause. But we will not be pausing forever. Okay, what steps could we engage in together today? I use these kinds of metaphors and try to find the metaphors that speak to both ANP and the fragile one. And see if we can get some degree of engagement. And it's good, as you said, Dominic, that we check ourselves if the phobia is in us. Are we somehow feeling and perhaps even communicating that we are a bit affect phobic, meaning that when there is high intensity of affect in the encounter between the fragile one and the ANP, that we sort of feel, is this the thing to do? Must we do this? Must this be so intense? Can I deal with that high degree of affectivity in my sessions? It's good that we explore ourselves and see what influence we may be exerting on the patient.
Well, my phobia wouldn't be the intensity in the session that I'm comfortable with, but the level of functionality between the sessions. When that goes down a lot, then I tend to be phobic to the same work that could support that dysfunctionality.
Right, yes. Here again, I would go for exploring together why she becomes less functional in daily life. What is happening? Who is doing what in daily life? Could it be that the fragile one starts to intrude ever more, that the ANP knows less well how to avoid that contact with the little one in daily life situations? Then I would arrange, okay, EPF, during the day, it might be a good idea that you sleep. And then in return, the ANP will be meeting you for half an hour at 7 o'clock in the evening.
Okay.
So that you arrange particular times and places where the two shall meet. And they both must invest. The little one must hold herself back during daytime. And the ANP must really keep her promise to actually encounter the little one at 7. Good. Sometimes ANP promises to do that, but actually doesn't. Thus, if you arrange it this way, it's important that you as a therapist check that indeed the ANP has fulfilled her promise. In one case, the patient got it, started to work better, but then there were some situations preventing her from doing that. Then in session, she excused herself in contact with the little baby. I'm very sorry. I had wanted to do that. I would have done that if such and so had not happened. I did not know how to do it otherwise. Thus, I did not meet you. I'm very sorry about that. That is not about you. That was my problem that I could not handle in a different way. I will try better. Or next time that it happens, I will do such and so to tell you it's not going to be 7 o'clock. You will have to wait half an hour more because something unexpected is coming up, something of that nature.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Mother would do with her child. Good. Another thing you can add is that you model how to deal with the little one as a therapist. Because it may be the case that the ANP is not only phobic, but does not have the skill to engage in a sort of positive interaction with the little one. She does not know how to do it because she never had good models. She may have had a very complicated mother herself that was low in mothering skills. Thus, she never got any good mothering modeling. Then you as the therapist may become the model for that. Practice it together. You do it. You interact positively with the little one. You invite the ANP to share your action, and then invite the ANP to practice that action when she's on her own with the little one. You can even do that in the session. You first do it together. You do it. You model it. Then you do it together. Then you leave the therapy room for 3 minutes. And the idea is that in the meantime, the ANP has a positive meeting with the little one. You check after 3 minutes when you return how things have been working out and model more, adapt more if needed, or congratulate them with the good effect and then suggest that they could do this type of interaction when they're on their own in a home situation. You could also ask ANP, when she's done it one time, to send you a little WhatsApp message with a thumb up or in the middle or down, so that ANP enters a little minimal contact with you that you can check in the morning. You don't need to check that straight away, but if it's arranged, you will be open to getting that sort of feedback or a little email of a very brief and short nature, so that ANP feels heard during the week. Because sometimes it is too hard for ANP, in particular in the beginning stages of therapy, to keep up the relationship with you during the week when you're not physically present. It may be too hard. They lose the connectivity with you and then are at a loss. This may be one idea how you can keep up the relationship more. With one patient, I had to give her one call during the week to sort of reconfirm our relationship. How have things been going? And I spoke to her for 5 minutes on the phone. And she said I said, okay, well done. See you in the next session. It's not certainly the first thing that I do, but sometimes things like that, little things that do not cost us too much time and energy as the clinician, can be helpful to make a bridge. A next step would be that the ANP has some symbol representing you as she is meeting the little one, so that you make yourself present in that way. Some of my patients, and you know that from me, took a little stone. I had little crystal stones on my table, and she could pick each and every week a particular crystal stone home, so that she knew that I knew that she existed and that she was working on item such and so. A little transitional object, you would call it in a psychoanalytic sense. And it can help, it sometimes helps. Good. Anything else? Then we perhaps could go to Menti and check, despite all technical difficulties we had today, if we have achieved a little bit together. Here are already reactions. Having attended the present session, I feel a bit more supported, gain some ideas, feel a little bit more secure, have many more questions. Yes, of course, there will be questions, but for quite a few, we've achieved something, and I'm very happy to see that. We had the next item, right, Grande? Could you use more support regarding these particular phobias that we've been addressing?
Quite a few people did leave us for obvious time reasons.
Yes. Robbie is writing, let me see. What is that?
Thank you, Robbie, for your feedback. Glad that at least was some help. Thank you for being here.
Okay. And there was a final question.
There was a final question, yeah. I believe you can select more answer options.
No, you can only select one.
Oh, then prioritize.
It's a tough choice.
But you can also voice it or mention it in the chat box, of course.
Yes, okay. We see some reactions. It's important also for Karan and me to know where your needs are, so that we can try and meet those needs in you.
Mm-hmm.
In any case, I'm very grateful that you've managed to stay present despite our technical difficulties. It was a challenge. The year did not have an easy start, but okay, we had the troubles. There's now the better days will come. Hopefully, Grande, we must see what we can do about technical things.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thus, here I would say have a very good rest of the day. Have a good weekend, and looking forward to meeting you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. We will be in touch via email.